It's Wild Ones Pro Show time. This is Stage 4 team. I am Jimmy. Jimmy. This is Emily.
Hello.
And Kate is back with us.
Yay. I missed you guys yesterday.
Oh, we missed you too, Katy. It was so much pressure having to write those highlights. I'm glad you're back to do it now. Before we get into them, thank you to Garmin and Van Rysel for supporting the show. Now we'll hand it back over to you in your rightful position to tell us what happened today.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the race began in cooler conditions, which I'm sure the peloton were all very relieved about. It was a cagey opening to the stage, actually. There was 70 kilometres before the proper climbing began, and we didn't see a proper breakaway established at that point. Jonathan Milan took the intermediate sprint coming into the foot of the Col de Tourmalet, but it wasn't all good news for Little Trek as Matthias Schellmoser crashed. He went into some road furniture and didn't look very nice, had his concussion protocol and had his elbows strapped up and got back on his bike at that point. On to the Tourmalet. UAE was setting the tempo, unsurprisingly, but Remco sadly was already out the back. It was quite hard to watch. He clearly wasn't feeling in a good way whatsoever. He was shaking his head and waving the cameras away. He didn't want to be watched at that point, which is fair enough, really. Can totally understand. The bunch started to stretch out then, with a few riders moving clear. Lenny Martinez launched solo for the summit of the Tourmalet. He rightly took the King of the Mountains points at the top of that climb, 3:30 ahead of the bunch at that point. Onto the descent, and it was a bit sketchy, with some wet weather causing the riders to take it a bit easy. Heading onto the penultimate climb of the day, the Category 1 Peyre-Sourde, Sepkus and Valentin Paris-Pantra caught up with Martinez. A chasing group then bridged to the trio of leaders on the Peyre-Sourde as UAE opened up the taps behind to begin to shred the time gap. Tyrone Arensman of INEOS Grenadiers was the man to launch a solo attack 4 kilometres from the summit of the climb, and he quickly began to build up a big gap over the chasers. He had 1:20 as he went over the summit, which built to 2 minutes ahead of the final climb, the Super Bannière. He was 3:20 up on the yellow jersey group, more significantly, which was now down to 16 riders. Lenny Martinez took 8 points on the Peyre-Sourde to make it a total of 33 added to his King of the Mountains total, enough to seal the lead in the King of the Mountains competition. On the last climb, Decathlon's Felix Gall was the first rider to attack from the GC group. He got clear and began to try and move his way across to Arensman, but Arensman was looking a little bit fatigued at this point, but he was holding on. The yellow jersey group was massively reduced by this point, and with 3.3 kilometres to go, Jonas Vingegaard attacked. Pogačar matched him and Lipowitz followed just behind. Then Pogačar attacked, then Vingegaard attacked. They passed Felix Gall, but Arensman still had a 1:35 advantage, and it was an advantage he managed to hold. He looked absolutely elated as he crossed the line first, ending INEOS' 2-year drought without a win at the Tour. It was well earned. He'd been off the front since 36.7 kilometres to go solo.
No wonder he looked fatigued.
Yeah, no wonder. It was amazing he managed to hold on, and really exciting for INEOS and for him getting his first Tour de France victory. Behind, Pogačar kicked with 100 metres to go and dropped Vingegaard, gaining 4 seconds to add to 2 bonus seconds on the line.
So final standings, Arensman takes the win, Pogačar came in second, Vingegaard third, Felix Gall ended in fourth, Lipowitz fifth, Oscar Onley, whoop whoop, sixth, Healy, also whoop whoop, seventh, and Roglic eighth, etc., etc. I'm not going to list them all.
Wait, what? Where's Remco?
Well, yes, you may have noticed Katy didn't mention Remco other than at the start of that because sadly he abandoned on the Tourmalet.
That's terrible for whoever's got him in his fantasy league.
Yeah, terrible for Benny, but
even worse for Remco.
Yes, probably slightly. Yeah, genuinely, it was quite hard to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really sad. It's never good to see riders suffering. They put so much time and preparation into getting ready for the race, and it's obviously the biggest race of the year. And he had high hopes and was still in third place despite having had 2 really difficult days on the bike, and we were hoping he'd rally and kind of push through, but he's obviously not feeling very well at all, and hope he gets better soon and bounces back and is soon the Remco we all know and love again.
Here. It's a lot of pressure on young shoulders, isn't it?
I'm actually a little bit happy in that. I'm glad he didn't just keep grinding and have another week and a half of just suffering. So he gets to go home, rest, recover, and come back stronger. Mm-hmm. Or the same strength, but not be ill.
Stronger than today, at least.
Today, Pogačar.
Matthias.
I've been waiting to make that joke, or like since the start.
Okay, Matthias Skjelmoser also called it quits today after his crash, unfortunately. We also saw Steph Kras of Total Energies abandon. He was ill, we think, this morning. Yeah. And also clearly a little bit overcome with emotion at the idea of throwing in the towel. And sadly, also doomed Brian Coquard is out of the Tour too. Confirmation of his injury. He had a broken finger after grabbing a musette a couple of stages ago. I saw at the end of one of the stages, his finger was like 45 degrees to where it should have been. It was nasty. I think he had some sort of operation or some sort of medical attention on that. He pushed through and did the TT, and then he's bowed out after that. So terrible tour for Brian, unfortunately.
Similar situation though. I'm glad he's can put it behind him, recover, rest, come back stronger.
Yeah, there's a whole kind of argument for just kind of grinning and bearing it and putting up with all these injuries. You know, we saw João Almeida earlier in the tour riding on with broken ribs, and these guys put themselves through enough. You know, it's hard enough. Like, let yourself rest, go and recover. There's plenty more racing to be done.
Totally. So do you want to give us a run through of what this means for the jerseys?
Yeah, so in the GC, everyone moves up one position in the top 10 as Remco bows out, while everyone below Remco, except Felix Gall, Ben Healy and Carlos Rodriguez, who all move up 2 places courtesy of their strong rides today. In white, again, as Remco's left the race, Florian Lipowitz now moves up into first position. So he will be wearing white tomorrow. Oscar Onley is in second in that contest. The King of the Mountains jersey I mentioned earlier, Lenny Martinez secured it today, and so he will rightfully own the jersey. And we did actually have a quick discussion about whether he switched out the full skin suit, the full polka dots, for his regular blue shorts today, maybe because it wasn't his rightful jersey, perhaps. But hopefully we'll see him back in full polka dots tomorrow, because he is rocking that look. Jonathan Milan and Tadej Pogačar are our 2 front runners, and they both picked up 20 points today, so there's actually no change at the top of that table. Milan retains green with 28 points, all that stands between the 2.
Oh, gosh. I didn't think we would be saying that. In fact, Mystic Bella, I didn't even put that as one of her predictions, so she can't get that right. Ignoring Pogačar and Vingegaard, if we just remove them from today's stage, I think that particularly Lipowitz and Onley are really sort of showing their strength. I guess because they're young riders, we haven't seen much from them. They really feel like they're coming into their prime, and they're doing amazing on these stages, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like seeing into the future a little bit, like in terms of, I mean, it's hard to imagine the Tour without Vingegaard and Pogačar, but these guys are, a handful of years younger, and perhaps will be following through, but they'll be at all the other Grand Tours, maybe ones where Pogačar and Vingegaard aren't riding. The future's super bright for both of those. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what they go on to do.
You mentioned that INEOS ended their 2-year tour drought. They're not the team with the biggest drought when it comes to Tour de France wins. Anyone who wants to play along at home, have a guess which team you think has gone the longest without a stage win.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing this. This is a great one.
So can I give you some context before you make a guess?
Yes.
I'm sure you could work it out if you grabbed a calculator. I just thought about it for 10 seconds. But to put it into context, INEOS haven't won a stage in 733 days until today. Well, actually, this article is from a few days ago. So maybe let's make it 735 because I think it was 2 days ago. So how many days has it been, first of all, since the team with the longest drought, and which team is it? And actually, I'll give you a clue. There's 2 teams that are really close.
Is this specifically Tour de France wins we're talking about?
Yeah.
Have Tudor ever been in it before?
No, they don't count. So they can't.
Oh, what?
They haven't been in it before, so.
Think of a team that we haven't said the name of.
Oh, I've got nothing. Come on, what we got?
Do you want to reveal it, Katy?
Yeah, okay. So sadly for the top, one of the top French teams, Groupama FDJ, have not won a tour stage in 2,189 days since 2019. And closely followed by Movistar. 2,184 days, so only 5 days between the 2.
Yeah, that's mad to think that, isn't it? Because there was that block where Movistar were just, they were the Visma.
Quintana.
Yeah.
So these 2 have it all to play for in the final week. Come on, Groupama and Movistar, let's break some more droughts. We've seen INEOS do it. You guys can do it.
INEOS have, we spoke about them yesterday for being in the news for the wrong reasons. They've won a stage today, which is absolutely fantastic. There was an incident that happened, which is probably going to be everywhere today as well. It's like the bad PR sandwich, isn't it?
It is indeed, yes.
Bad stuff, bit of good stuff, more bad stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately. So things took quite a dramatic turn with just 32 kilometres to go when an INEOS team car hit a spectator. So at this point, Arendsman was out the front with the breakaway on the Col de Périssord, and the climb was packed with fans. We saw so many fans out on the climbs today. It's a weekend, in the bad weather even, they came. His team car was sort of following just behind him, and there was a fan stood in the road quite far into the road, I would say, with their phone out, seemingly snapping photos of the passing riders. Everyone sort of had their attention onto the other side of the road where the breakaway was. I would say the fan appeared totally unaware that they were stood right in the path of the car, and clearly the driver didn't see them either, because unfortunately they did collide with enough force that the fan was swept off their feet. We didn't really see much more than that on the live cast, but fingers crossed everyone's okay.
Yeah, it looked very unpleasant.
I'm not going to put that as fluff up the day because I don't think that would be in very good taste. I didn't see another one. However, we did see an interesting moment of the day. Don't have a jingle for that.
Interesting moment of the day. Ooh.
Alaphilippe was caught out without a rain jacket at the top of the Tourmalet. So he decided to borrow...
Steal, you mean?
Borrow...
Steal...
a fan's cardboard sign, which he ripped a piece off of and stuck it under the front of his jersey as a very old school method to keep warm.
I really rate what he did to keep warm, but I do feel bad for the lady on the side of the road that had spent hours making a sign for Wout van Aert and got stolen by Alaphilippe, and she literally started running up the road after him to get her sign back. At which point he's ripped it in half again and jabbed it down his jersey.
I'm not sure if Wout had even passed yet, so
I don't think he had.
I don't think he would have seen the sign.
Maybe if everyone shouts loud enough, Wout van Aert can make this lady a little message or something or other.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, that would be nice.
I don't think we have the clout to pull that off, but
Alaphilippe will have to issue a public apology.
Yeah.
But jokes aside, I do have a lot of respect for him going old school and stuff in some... Because, well, for those that don't know, back in the day, it used to be newspapers. So there'd be newspapers on the side of the road, or even just cold training in winter. You used to line your kit with newspaper and whatever you could find just to kind of keep warm. So that's ultimately what his inspiration was.
Yeah, there was a post about it on Twitter today. Thomas de Gent was saying that they used to have people waiting at the top of climbs with newspapers for them to bundle down their tops on days when it was obviously going to be a bit grim. So
maybe that's what Alaphilippe thought was happening. Yeah. He thought it was for him.
For me.
Yeah, you think?
Anyway, the topic of today that I would like us to discuss, which I have seen all over my social media in the past 36 hours, Pogačar's time up climbs from previous days. They're getting so much attention. And this is not something new. I remember this happening last year. But ultimately, his times are being compared to the 90s era. So, for example, Haute-Cam, he did it in a time of 35 minutes, 8 seconds. That was the fastest ascent of Haute-Cam since the 90s. That was set by Bjarne Riis. Perhaps also the time has raised eyebrows because it's a lot faster than people we now know to be prolific dopers. Marco Pantani, Jan Ullrich, Lance Armstrong. But we talked about this last year, but can you really compare different eras? I mean, there's different equipment, there's different nutritional and training advances, different conditions on the day.
Well, the greatest cyclist of all time, Eddie Merckx, where's his name? So if you consider Eddie to be the greatest cyclist of all time, you would also expect his name to be in there, which shows the impact of technology. At no point am I defending Pogačar or even Vingegaard because he's still 19th. But I am pretty confident that technology and training and nutrition and all of the professionality that we now have in cycling makes such a huge impact to performance.
Yeah, me too. That feels like a no-brainer. But I don't know whether it's just the sensationalism of seeing a list of names like that.
One of the things I find incredibly frustrating is the spotlight that cycling gets versus all of the other sports where there's constantly people getting done for doping. I almost don't want to know because I want the sport to be sport.
I don't like that take. I don't think you should bury your head in the sand. But also, I think that I don't think that just because he's faster, it proves anything. We should also make the point here that we have absolutely no evidence that he's doping, and therefore I think that it would be completely inappropriate for us to accuse him on such a public platform. Like, ultimately, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard than some bloke in a comment section. You know what I mean? So that is why it might seem like we are defending him, but ultimately it's like innocent until proven guilty. And this would not be anywhere near enough evidence to prove him guilty. I just think it's an interesting thing that ultimately these conversations keep cropping up.
Lantern Rouge don't even think that his performance on that climb was particularly spectacular. So they estimate he was doing about 6.7 watts per kilo, which was for a 35-minute effort, and said it was a relatively average performance compared to some of last year's Tour stages and this year's Criterium de Dauphiné.
Yeah, I think I was just saying earlier, I feel like that's quite scary because if he's putting in what they are kind of analysing as an average performance, what has he still got in the locker? Like, what has he not needed to unleash yet in terms of his power? And we're obviously only just getting into the high mountains now, and today he didn't need to unleash particularly high power either. There was no massive attacks. He didn't go off on one of his trademark solos, so we've yet to see where his numbers are at in comparison with previous years.
Unless he's actually carrying bucket tons of fatigue and he's scared everyone enough that he can just kind of
scare him early.
Well, yeah, scare him early and then just, keep everything, put a fake smile on for the rest.
Super hard day because of the weather. If my nose would be a little bit less blocked, I would be really happy with today's weather. But when you're a bit under the weather, this kind of weather it doesn't help. But for me, always when it's like this, I have good legs.
We were talking about this. I think some of the disbelief comes from how easy he makes it look. But you were talking about that, Jimmy, with maybe there's an art to that.
Yeah, there is an art to it. So I remember back in my running days, many, many, many moons ago, there was a guy I used to chat to called Richie Gardner, who was a Welsh, he was a Commonwealth champion runner as well, like unbelievably fast. I think his marathon record was like 2:18 or something rather, like a proper elite runner. And I remember sending a photo of him on the back page of, I think it was the Cardiff Half Marathon booklet thing, with him crossing the line, arms in the air, really happy, big smile on his face. And I just remember saying to him something like, I don't know how you finish a race and look that good. And he was explaining how it's essentially part of being a professional athlete, not looking good for cameras, but looking good for your competition. So no one knows how knackered you are. Like, we see Jonas go up these climbs and you can see he's suffering. You can see most people are suffering. I think Pog is just the poker master. I think he has a method of making himself look like he's just cool as a cucumber, completely calm, doesn't get out of the saddle, just rides his way, grinds his way through the pedals. Obviously, he does his big kicks. You practically never see him struggle. And I think it's just his art. It's his method of showing everyone that he's the best and not showing any weakness.
He can get a job in the theatre when he retires.
Yeah, but in his head, he's absolutely squealing.
Maybe. So on the Mountain TT stage yesterday, I've seen multiple estimates that say they think he's averaged about 7.1 watts per kilo to claim the winning time of 23 minutes. His FTP, aka his 60-minute power numbers, have previously been estimated at around 450 watts, which is for him something around 6.84 watts per kilo, which is just huge. And obviously he did that big interview where it kind of said the zone 2 extends to over 5 watts a kilo. The guy's numbers are incredible.
Yeah, and generally when you hear actual scientists, performance scientists looking at these numbers, no one seems to be too fazed by them. It seems to be in line with what is expected from him as an athlete and other athletes. There are other athletes which are very, very close to these kind of numbers, not the same, otherwise they would be going alongside him. The number that really, the best I've ever been, I was about 5 watts per kilo. Like the best I've ever been, and that's his zone 2. That is bonkers, isn't it? But bear in mind, he is an anomaly, but he's not the only one. This is professional cyclists. They are all just absolute, just in a different stratosphere. And we see this in all sports. A professional athlete isn't the same as a normal person.
Totally. I think just the hard thing for some fans is to see, yes, correct, they're in a different league, but he makes some of those GC guys look like they're not amateurs, but it's just so far ahead. It's weird to. He is a freak of nature, and I think that whether you like it or not, cycling is always going to have this shadow hanging over it. You know, we were led to believe that one of the last greatest of all time that came out of the era of, you know, the sport is now clean. You can believe me. Then turned out to be the biggest liar.
What, Chris Froome?
Lance Armstrong.
That was a joke.
Yeah, and I can see why people are jaded by it. It'd be hard to trust that again. But as we say, I don't know. We have no evidence, so it is all hearsay and speculation. But I don't think that, just like for Chris Froome, I don't think that whispers of doping will ever go away for him just because of what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that to bring it back to the current tour and what it actually means in context, we can look at the GC time gap between 1st and 10th. After yesterday's stage was over 14 minutes between Pogačar in 1st, and it was actually Matteo Jorgensen in 10th at that point. And that is the biggest gap that we've seen between 1st and 10th since 2001, when Lance was 17 minutes ahead, which is quite mad. Like the top 10 GC riders in the tour are already separated by that amount of time, when we haven't even gotten into we have today gotten into the really long high mountains, but those are the places where ordinarily the time gaps begin to develop. For context, by contrast, in 2020, it was only 2 minutes 54 between 1st and 10th at this exact point. So that's a really interesting point of reference, I feel. Pogačar's banked 42 seconds of bonus time so far as well, which is quite a lot really for a GC rider.
Well, that would be a winning time.
Yeah,
in some tours, wouldn't it? It is an incredible gap.
I think the bit that surprises me the most is the recovery rate. The fact that he's able just to go day after day after day. Because I think a lot of his individual performances, if you took your Vingegaards and he was doing if he was doing one of these climbs fresh, without having to think about the rest of the Tour de France, he's going to be putting out very similar numbers to Pogačar. But it just feels like Pogačar has this confidence in his ability to recover that he can just go, right, well, I can just go 100% because I'll be fine and I'll be able to do it again tomorrow. That's the bit that I just find absolutely wild. It's incredible. I hope it's incredible.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, a couple of tours ago, the spotlight was on Vingegaard and that incredible out of this world TT. And he faced the same questions. And now 2 years later, in comparison, he looks human again. And, if I wonder if those same people have...
I don't think that's fair because he's still absolutely bossing it.
He is, yes, but you see Pogačar launch day after day and, once they decide to have a kick for the line, the kick isn't there. Maybe it's just that's his weakness. But I don't know. And now this year, the TT yesterday was great, but the first TT, I don't know. It's just interesting. I guess it's just the people's focus go to what's happening immediately. But if you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, is Pogačar not just in his best form? He is a different rider to what he was a couple of years ago when he wasn't winning. And now we're just seeing him in his absolute prime.
He's in his pump.
And he's also he is like at the perfect age for like male athletic performance. He's like really grown into it. And probably one of the first of the breed of being professional from day one kind of thing, So he's had his development up to this point has been significant.
Well, we had an unpopular opinion from listener Theo, who has a suggestion that might help get fans on board when it comes to trust in athletes. He thinks that all pro teams should provide daily anti-doping tests for every athlete that intends to take part in the race for the next 30 days. He said this could be extended to 60 or 90 days, since this would deter cheaters from using a preparation phase for a race. He says, because continental tour teams have vastly lower budgets, I would exclude them unless the teams get a wild card for tours and maybe monuments.
I quite like this kind of stuff, and I do often think that, like, if Pogačar, well, I won't even use Pogačar, if an athlete is dominant and they are comfortable that their dominance comes from their ability to ride a bike or whatever their activity is, you'd think they'd be more willing to share information. And I just kind of think, like, if I was the number one, I would want to give and there was question marks on me. I would want to give everyone everything. I would want to be doing my own testing and releasing the data. I'd want to be giving people power files, and I would want to be arrogant enough and confident enough that even with all of that information on me, I'm still going to beat them.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like it raises more questions. I just think about like in trials, it's usually expected that defendants won't take the stand and give evidence unless they really, really need to, because almost sharing more of yourself actually can sometimes go against you and create more doubt. I think the actual problem with this is, like, in reality, if they're providing their own testing, it's basically useless. It's self-policing. And if you actually want every athlete to be tested, number one, that would create a massive backlog. Like, the tour wouldn't end up starting probably till 3 p.m. They're checking people's bikes and all of that kind of stuff. And you need something like, I feel like if it's a urine sample, for example, someone's watching you pee and someone's watching them watching you pee. I believe I have a friend that's a footballer, and that's how he used to have to be tested, unless that was just what he was into. But ultimately, like, so it's basically 2 person to every rider, or an assembly line of riders. That's an awful lot of work, and I think generally there's probably isn't enough money in these organisations to actually fund that and also do all of the testing that has to then happen off the back of it.
Yeah, but do you not think that if you were that person that was constantly being, like, speculated on, you'd go, right, okay, well, I'm in an environment that's very wealthy. I'm going to do that via a third party and pay for it. I suppose people would still just go, you paid them off.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Also,
Yeah.
do you know, I always think back to you remember when we did that story on the main show about Lizzie Banks, who got the anti-doping violation, and she said that it was, what's the word? Medical contamination, as in medicine contamination.
Yeah.
Again, I almost don't know whether providing more information like that actually opens you to anomalies or things going wrong. Again, whether that actually happens or not, I can imagine that being a real fear for athletes.
Yeah.
Why would you give over more information than you need to? They're not guilty until proven innocent. They're innocent until proven guilty. The burden is not on them to satisfy internet comments.
And at the end of the day, they're all tested daily anyway. Like, it's the ones in jerseys and the stage winners, it's daily testing. They're also subjected to random testing throughout the year at any time of day or night. They can, a person from the UCI will just rock up at the house and they have to provide a sample. It's a fairly rigorous system for a organisation that probably has, as you say, not heaps of resources to pile into it.
And people will say it is a flawed system and that there have been other dopers who have never failed tests.
Can I ask a question to our watchers and listeners? Well, actually just watchers, because you can only comment on there.
You can comment on Spotify and stuff as well. But
can you?
You can, yeah.
Really?
Yes. I listen to us on Spotify in the car just to listen to the levels. And I did notice someone went, Jimmy, you can comment here, just no one looks.
No way.
Yeah, I saw you.
Okay, so you can comment there as well. So I'll start looking there. I thought you couldn't do it. Well, that's good information. Thank you very much. To the people that are watching and listening this, that are the skeptics and think that pro cycling is full of drugs and doping and all of this illegal bad stuff, can you comment with what you would like to happen for you to no longer be worried about it being full of drugs and doping and cheating and all of this stuff? Because I just want to know. I want to know what would, like, end this, like, constant annoying debate and give people faith and hope and just enjoy that there are some incredible athletes in the world.
I had a comment, but I feel like it's a can of worms, so I'm probably not going to say it.
Or you can just drop a can of worms and leave it.
We talked earlier about getting rid of the team doctors. No, the team staff who've been involved in doping might help.
Mm-hmm. This is also a complete tangent, but I was thinking while brushing my teeth this morning, you want
interesting.
You want fair sport. You want everyone to be clean in the interest of fair sport. But sport isn't fair when you look at the fact that there are teams like UAE with budgets of 60 million, whatever it is, against teams like Cofidis, for example. Lotto and Intermarché might have to combine because they're basically on the brink of going. Total Energies fighting for survival. Where is the fair sport?
It's financial doping.
Oh, that's a great term. That.
Anyway, we'll leave it there. Otherwise, the podcast is going to be too long.
But feel free to all have a massive discussion in the comments. Go for it.
The Wild Ones Pro Show is supported by Garmin.
And we are in some really good company because Garmin also supports some of the very best riders in the Tour de France and the Tour de France Femme.
Yeah, they work with teams like Visma Bike, Soudal Quickstep, SD Works Pro Time, FDJ Suez, and many more.
And because Garmin provides these teams with trainers, head units and wearables, they've got access to mountains of incredible data.
And they're going to share some of that data with us throughout the coming stages. So we'll get a really interesting insight into the physical demands of the most prestigious bike races in the world.
So please stay tuned for that. And once again, thanks to Garmin for supporting the show.
How would you like to win a Van Rysel RCR-F 105 Di2 worth £5,000?
I would love to. I've ridden that bike. It is proper good.
Well, sorry, Jimmy, you can't. But one of our UK listeners will, thanks to our sponsor, Van Rysel.
That's class. The RCR-F is literally a Tour de France race bike.
Yeah, the official bikes of Decathlon, AG2R, Le Mondial.
The 105 version has the same grade of carbon that the pros ride.
So to enter the draw to win this bike, click the link in our description. You must be a UK resident, age 18 or over, and T's and C's apply. One winner will be chosen by Van Rysel and contacted by them a week after the draw closes at midnight on August 4th. I sound like one of those radio adverts, don't I?
No, it wasn't fast enough. So good luck, and thanks to Van Rysel for supporting the Wild Ones Pro Show.
Yeah. Okay, Katy, on to the stage 12 preview.
It's stage
15 preview.
Going back in time. Yeah, okay. A day of respite, actually, for the riders after 3 tough days in the Pyrenees. Stage 15 is a transition stage, beginning in Muret and travelling to Carcassonne as the race heads east on its way to the Alps. The profile is relatively flat up to the intermediate sprint at just under 60 kilometres. And from there, a series of hilly climbs could potentially offer an opportunity for the breakaway. 2 Category 3s, the first short and steep, the second longer with a gentler gradient, will offer launch pads for attacks, ahead of a Category 2 effort that's a real leg snapper, 2.9 kilometres at 10.2% average gradient. This one could split things up, but with 53 kilometres still to go from there to the finish line, most of them downhill, we could see a big chase for a precious stage victory.
Well, we shall find out what happens on that stage tomorrow, and we'll bring you all the news from it. Same time-ish, same place-ish.
Well, definitely
Probably
the same place.
Okay, well, until then, thank you. See you later.
That was such a formal sign-off. See ya, bye.
I never write down what I'm going to say, and then I think, why did I not write something down? Because I don't know what I'm going to say.
You channeled your inner TV presenter.
Yeah, everyone say bye.
Bye.
Bye.